Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian. We're ready to get things underway, and we are sitting here on June the 18th. This upcoming weekend is a big one for Michigan, where they roll out the Maize and Blue carpet, and they have their big Victors weekend. And looking at the different commitment dates and the players, I think it's safe to say that over the next 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more than that there's going to be a handful of players that are going to be committing to Michigan. I'll guess 5 over the next 2 weeks. So it's a great time if you like the future of Michigan and you're sitting back. Let's just say, if you like recruiting, I think it's going to happen. And then, as you probably know, but as you're sitting here June 18th, July is rapidly approaching, and July 1st is when it's a significant date in college football where you can start paying the players out of the over $20 million kitty. And then also you have a clearinghouse for NIL deals and how that ends up playing out. I mean, I was in a long discussion last night with someone, and I was like, oh, are they going to be able to go back and take a look at Bryce Underwood's NIL deal and say, hey, that's not a fair market deal? Are they going to be able to nix that? Probably not. But these ones that are coming up, is it good to get in your deal before July 1st? A lot of different things to think about, a lot of moving parts. I think that, as a fan, you hear all that stuff, but you just want to see the guys commit. And the bigger the name, the higher the ranked player, the better. And there's no problem with that. I think that's a fine way to go about things. Well, basketball, it used to be where you talk about basketball once October or November rolled around, and or after Michigan football lost a regular season game, you'd say, oh, when does when does basketball start? You'd always Michigan State football. Michigan State fans use that one annually. When's basketball start? But the Michigan basketball team, every week they are getting a new player, and every week they have something to talk about that's interesting. It shows you that the program is healthy. They look good. And Dusty May's second year coming up. We'll look at some of the things. There's some news items with the basketball team, including the first look at some of the portal guys in the Maize and Blue and some freshmen in the Maize and Blue. So we'll show you that, and we'll talk about them. We normally just talk about Michigan all the time, but 1 or 2% of the time we hit on something else. And last night, the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup, so I have a word or two on that. It's really about it. I brought it back to Michigan football with Steve Yzerman and Jim Harbaugh, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. But recruiting is where it's at right now when it comes down to Michigan football. I'd like to remind everyone, I've noticed that there's new folks that are stopping by and sampling out the podcast. We are live Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. As is normal, there's an opportunity for you to get in if you're catching this live and ask a question or make a point. If there's something, you're a college football fan, you're a Michigan fan, and there's something that you think, man, this should be being discussed. This is what I'm excited about. This is what I want to talk about. Well, you get it in there, and we certainly will consider it. And then, maybe, who knows what ends up happening with a point or a question, where it goes in terms of talking about it. Now, if you want to reach me, I look at the feedback that comes in. I'm also on places like Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. So check those out, and you can leave me messages there whether it's direct messages or Twitter. I think I have to be following you. If you follow me, I'm more than likely to follow you back. I look, and if it looks like it's not a bot, like a lot of times you see, hey, big Michigan fan, I follow you. I'm interested to see, as things play out, what you're thinking about. So you can take advantage of all those things. And if you have any questions or comments, let's go. So with that, and it is recruiting time, we're going to be talking about it. And I could spend, I think, 3 hours going player by player about this person. If Michigan, if it was who's Michigan got a chance with, it would be a 3-hour podcast. If it's who's Michigan likely to get, you can trim down a little bit. But you could throw, and I think just throwing name after name, I put, as thinking about, I'll put 4 guys down that I'm thinking about, well, these guys could be interested in Michigan. And then there was a flood of names. And that's why I feel like I go back to where I was at the beginning of this when I said that I think Michigan is going to get a handful of players over the next 2 weeks. There's just guys that these experts at the Maize and Blue reviews. I like Josh Henschke. They're over here. There's like, future cast. Oh, Michigan's number 1. Oh, this guy's down to Michigan, Notre Dame. This guy's down to Michigan and, a couple other. And Michigan's right there with a ton of guys. And I think one part, if I'll go back to that NIL and the clearinghouse and all the house settlement and everything for just 1 second. Michigan is in a very good spot when it comes to all that because Michigan is funded. Michigan's got a lot of money coming in. And yeah, I know that when you saw Ward Manuel saying, oh, we're 15 million light, and everyone's like, wow, Michigan's it's a lot of money. But Michigan has a lot of money, so they're in a good spot when it comes down to all of it. Now, whether you think that it's too much money and all that, that could be a question for another time. I did join, this is my thumbnail. If you are going back or you watch this in the beginning, I joined a fancy app that makes things look better. It was a very cumbersome project trying to put up something where you say, hey, you can't judge a book by its cover, but apparently you can judge a podcast by its cover. If you don't have a flashy cover, and people are just going to bypass you, and you want somebody to click on and check it out. So I'm in. It makes it so much. It's more fun. I'm having this was my first go at it. So here you go. Heat check as we look through some of the players that are out there for Michigan. And let's start it out. And I am going to look at a tackle that is on the top of Michigan's board. Malachi Lee, big, I don't know, what's he, 6'7"? He's standing next to Sharon Moore. And Sharon Moore looks, he's also standing next to Grant Newsome. These guys look like a full head above. 6'7". He's listed at 4-star tackle. They want him. Michigan has been, however, I don't know what the breakdown is with Michigan and their salary cap and how much money they're dedicating to the offensive line or left tackle or specific players. Most teams, it's going to be pretty similar, quarterback, offensive line, rush. These are the guys that are going to get paid the most money. There's no doubt that Michigan's putting a lot of money towards the offensive line. That's something that they want to continue to do. Yeah. And so Lee is there. Michigan made a big impression on him. They got a good chance at getting him. June 27th is the date where Lee is going to make his announcement. And that's one of the things that's a fun part. When you get into the announcements and, you're sitting there and seeing where a guy's going to go and you don't really know. You hear a lot of people say, well, he's coming, or, it's a really good chance until they actually, go out there and do it. That's going to be the first step. Do it, commit. And then you see what happens after that. Right. So there's Lee. There's Kerry Adams. Somebody was asking about a corner. Michigan has one corner right now committed. They've got 10 commitments. It just with the last one being a long snapper. But they've got 10 commitments, and the first was a corner out of Florida named Jennings, Brody Jennings. But Jennings is still taking visits, and Jennings isn't really acting like a commitment, although he's listed as a commitment. And many people think, who followed his brother's recruitment, that Jennings has as much chance of being somewhere else than he does at Michigan. So you look at the corners, and Adams, it looks like it's going to be a Michigan Notre Dame from all indications, a battle between the Wolverines and the Irish. He is another player that's going to make an announcement this month. So 1, 2, at least footnote, keep in mind, Adams, the 6'2", 4-star corner out of Maryland, who very much likes Michigan. So there you go, Lee and Adams. Now we get to some guys that it looks like it would be a surprise, I would say, at this point, if Michigan does not end up with Andre Carter Jr., the safety out of Virginia. Michigan has made I don't know what you said, a path, put a wall around Virginia. They're in Virginia, and they're just taking players out of Virginia. And Carter Jr. looks like he's going to be one of those guys Michigan leads. He's got future cast. I put a forecast in for him. The 6'1" safety. If you're playing the game, who could be next? Who will be next? Carter would be a top if anybody was putting odds out on who would be the next guy to commit. It would be Andre Carter Jr., 6'1" safety. He's a 4-star. He'd look great in the maize and blue, looking good in a suit that we have pictured here. And Carter, he likes the biggest competition. Looks like it's going to be the U. So that used to scare me way more than it does now. 2-3 years ago, when you'd say, well, it's Michigan and Miami, it'd say, oh, well, it's he's going to go down to Coral Gables. See you later. That Michigan's not going to be able to, but that's not how it's working anymore. Michigan can fight fire with fire when it comes down to the U, and he is a Michigan lean. Also Kentucky and Syracuse, so he's got some other considerations in there. But right now it looks like Michigan is the one. So Carter Jr., put him down in marker. You have your big board on your desk, however you do it, whatever you do. Now, Ron Bellamy is standing next to Travis Johnson, a 6'4" wide receiver out of Virginia. He's got a lot of big names: Georgia, Michigan, Penn State. I think he's going to Va Tech this weekend. So, the local school there, close enough, Blacksburg. But Johnson is, I don't know, a flair for the dramatic. When I see a July 4th announcement date, I'm thinking, I immediately think fireworks. I also think hot dogs and potato salad, but, I don't mind a little morning commitment. So however that's going to end up happening there with Travis Johnson. And Michigan right now has a lot of good vibes going their way. Sorry, I just got a text. That was a very good vibe. TJ, I would also put Travis Johnson down in Penn. Mason Blue Review really likes Michigan's chances at landing Johnson. And right now they've got a wide receiver named Pyle out of Texas. He's a 4-star. Johnson's a 4-star. They've got, I don't have him listed here. They've got another wide receiver that's coming in this weekend. As predicted, not just by me, by people that have common sense. You got Bryce Underwood. You're going to start getting a lot more quality wide receivers committing to Michigan. And, they got Marsh last year, and they got Browder, and they got Washington, but the stars and the rankings of these guys are going way up. And Sharon Moore, said last year about it. He likes big wide receivers that can go up and get the ball. Most of these guys are, big wide receivers that I'm guessing can go up and get the ball. So Travis Johnson, remember Zion Robinson is still in the mix as well. A lot of wide receivers. I don't know how many they take. Will they take 4? 3, I would think for sure. They already got one. Travis Johnson looks like the other. So if you're a wide receiver out there, you want to play for Bryce Underwood, and you're a 26 recruit, now's the time to go ahead and accept the challenge, because you might be on the outside looking in when it comes down to it. And we mentioned him on Monday, but I want to go back and mention him again. Goodwin is a linebacker out of California that Michigan is looking good for, and somebody to keep an eye on. If you're somebody that wants to keep an eye on Michigan football recruiting all the time, and Michigan football, and Michigan basketball, and Michigan basketball recruiting, and other Michigan news, well, this is the place to be. It's the Maize and Blue Review. You can join up today and get instant access. I got to say, I went out and was playing the let's do it for free on the computer, making these thumbnails for 3 years. I joined up. It's like an oasis. It's so much fun. I think Maize and Blue Review is a little bit like that. You go out there, you're picking up news from here and there. Then you join up and at a place like the Maize and Blue Review, and it's like, wow, man, this is fresh air. This is nice. This is fun. That's what it is. It's nice and it's fun. And if you're a Michigan fan, it's a must-have. Get instant access today by going to michigan.rivals.com. That's how you get it done. Let's look at some of the feedback. And then we'll get to some basketball. I mentioned Twitter, and here's Ben, Big Ben on Twitter. He says, this team has been unbelievable on the recruiting trail as of late. And yeah, that's right. It bears repeating. Michigan is in a great spot. The years of yesteryear, you're like, oh, they just throw the bag at him. I mean, how many times did a million times? It got to be, I got to admit, it was a frustrating part of recruiting and follow it like, oh, this guy really likes Michigan. Oh, he's big in academics. Oh, he loves the school of business. He ran down the tunnel. He loves a coach. He loves the staff. He loves it, everything he loves. And then you'd be sitting there like, no, he's going to Alabama. He's going to Miami. And, he's going to, NIL University. And everybody immediately would just be like, oh, he took the bag. But that's not it's Michigan's can fight with just as big of a bag now, if not bigger than everyone. So yeah, they're in on anyone that they want to be in on. They are, and they should end up with a top 10 class. And if you want to combine, if you say, well, it's not that big of a deal with recruiting because the guys can leave, fine. Combine the portal with the freshmen that are coming in, and it should rank, and if it's not in the top 5, it should rank in the top 10 for sure, with everything that Michigan has going for them right now. When you think about the team on the field, the coaching staff, and you just build it out, they've leveled up when it comes to being able to pay the players. So let's go. I'm with you, Ben. You're right there. It's good to see Rip Star, and Rip, you got to give him this. He's nobody else made a comment on the Borg that I made, but Rip likes it, and it's the Lindy Borg. There it is, old Yaxel. We're gonna fill this one up. I found a little sticker in the studio. We put that on there. We'll be ready to get that thing going. And it's not so far off. And yeah, we are going to be talking about basketball. Justin's a big recruiting guy. Good to see him. He's in here thinking, what about this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy? Yeah, right. A lot of them. Sam wants a bunch of Polynesian players, hardest heads and biggest hearts. Well, I remember year one of Harbaugh when he said, we're going to have a satellite camp down in Alabama. We're going out to Australia and we're going out to, where's it, Fiji or something like that. And it was like, hey, you have Polynesian players. Great idea. Smart idea. I think Jim Harbaugh is right there with you, the way he was thinking about it. So, Sam, understand where you're coming from. Now with basketball, the players are in, they've got 4 players that are coming back from last year. LJ Kaysen, Namari Burnett, Roddy Gale Jr., and Will Cheddar. I saw someone with a Will Cheddar shirt on at the gym today. I almost went up and said, sweet shirt. I didn't. Stayed away. But those 4, but then the other, Godot, Trey McKinney, Yaxel, Winters Grady, Liebert, I don't think I'm saying his name right, Goodman, Morris Johnson, Mara, Cordell, the German that they just got. That's 13 players on there, and they were in for the first time working out on the court. So the cameras were there. And so here's the first chance to see him. There's Yaxel Lindeborg on the Twitter feed for Michigan basketball. They had some video. They showed Lindeborg throwing up some threes, throwing down a dunk, that kind of stuff. Looked fun. And what do I take away is that Lindeborg is he's transferring up, but you kind of feel like, he could be the star of the Big Ten, and he could be an All-American. I mean, that's the kind of expectations that are. I'm not here to stop any of them either. I'm right there. Let's see what he's able to do. But around Trey McKinney, you didn't have Lindeborg, you might be like saying this is going to be the guy of coming in, and he could be a superstar sooner rather than later. He's everything that you want. And physically, you always wonder how long it'll take a freshman. Physically, he's going to be one of the big challenges there. McKinney looks like he's ready for Big Ten basketball. You say, oh, you got to spend a year with the, whoever the trainer is. And sure, yeah, getting stronger. But McKinney looks like he has taken that part of his game as serious as everything else. And so he's looking good there. So there's McKinney and Lindeborg. So the players were in for the first time, and 2 guys that weren't around were Morez Johnson Jr. and LJ Kaysen. That's because they're working out and playing for Team USA, the under-19 national team, and the finalists. There's 18 finalists. I don't know if they'll trim that down. 15, 12. They both Johnson Jr. and LJ Kaysen made the cut to be one of the 18 finalists for the under-19 national team. And Morez firing up a shot. He's got pretty good build on him for being 6'8", 6'9". And then, I don't know if you could tell. Somebody could tell me. Look at Kaysen's legs. He is thick, built. You like to, say, my mom always said about herself that she had chicken legs, which I don't think was being very flattering to herself, but you don't want chicken legs if you're playing basketball. You want legs like Kaysen. And look at him in that Team USA. And you'd want both of these guys. The experience that they could get playing international ball along with the other players on the under-19 team, invaluable. This would be great for Michigan to hold both of them make it. Kaysen, who, am I going to make the case for Kaysen? Okay, I will. Kaysen, I feel like, is the most important player on the Michigan basketball roster as we sit here towards the end of June. Most important because Elliot Godot comes in, and he's going to be replacing Trey Donaldson. You would think that he has the inside track to be, because he started, close to 40 games. I don't know, Kaysen started any games? No. 40 games, close to a 40-game starter compared to a second-year guy. So you would think it would be Godot, but Godot he's been a turnover-prone guard at Carolina. Maybe he's going to get a little bit better there. But then Kaysen in his second year, how much better is he going to be? And if you can get Kaysen to take a jump, whatever it is, and you do take some kind of jump, but if he can take that big jump, or you'd make your biggest jump between freshman and sophomore season, and at some point you could say, hey, he could be pushing Godot for starter minutes and all of that. Now you're on to something. Now you're talking about a team that, could be a legit team to get to Indianapolis, where this year's Final Four will be the 20, instead of being 26, the 2025, 2026 Final Four in Indy. Nice, easy drive for those that have been able to do it 5-6 hours. Get right down there. Probably be at still the RCA Dome. I think so. There where the Colts play. Let's go. Final Four. And so that's where it is when it comes down to basketball. How about Ted? Thanks, Ted. Thank you so much. And good afternoon to you. Good afternoon. Ted is saying that Yaxel definitely has star written in his near future. Yeah. Yeah, they do. He does. He looks like a star. He's got the numbers like a star. People that rank him, I've watched some highlights. I did not watch UAB play last year. And so you look at him and, he looks more like a 3. And yet I was looking at, I don't know, some kind of basketball site, but it was a popular one where enough people, 70, 80,000 people were following it. They were ranking the centers from last year. And lo and behold, Lindenberg was in the top 3. Hunter Dickinson was down on that list, and you're thinking, wow, Lindenberg's the center, because he's got the 7'4" reach at 6'8.5". But you watch him play, and my first impression was that he looked like it played a little bit like Jason Tatum without the complete game that Jason Tatum has, where he's a 6'8" player who can shoot it and also who can take you off the dribble. From that standpoint, that's how he reminded me of Tatum. And then the second time, he reminded me of a guy that was played in the NBA for almost 20 years, just build-wise, and that was Trevor Ariza. So those are the two comps that I was looking at just as I watched him and just some highlights, but can't wait to see him play. Sam says this team knocks down those turnovers, they'll go far. Yeah, I think that immediately if you say what is going to be the biggest thing for this team, that's what I would say too, the turnovers. It is a new team. They do have 4 players that are coming back from last year's team who that was their big thing. We all agree that they turned the ball over too much. So you could make a case, well, year to year, that's going to be different. Okay, I see that point. The other thing is there was a thought from me, maybe others, that Dusty May's system, a go, 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 could have played into the carelessness, the fumbling of the ball, the inexplicable, passes out of bounds and everything else. And because that's how he wants to play. The first practice that I went to, for Michigan hoops last year. You walked in, and that was part of what jumped out to you. The whistle was blowing constantly, and these guys weren't, sashaying over. It was go, 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 go. And as soon as somebody had the ball, somebody was yelling at them to get rid of it. As soon as somebody rebounded the ball, they were yelling to push it up the floor. They were saying, get it to somebody, go, go. And so, if you practice that way and you play that way, hot potato ball where it can't stick. It's got to go. It's got to be on the move. You got to get shots up. If you want to have so many shots per possession, which is a huge thing for basketball, you want to get as many possessions, as many shots up as you can. Well, you don't walk the ball up and, stand there, with calling the play or something. No, you're cutting, you're passing, you're moving and everything else. So how much of that of May's system and how many of it, it comes down to the players. There's a little bit. I think ultimately it's going to be a player, get a smart player who knows the game and understands, how to protect the ball. That's going to be, that's going to overcome. It's not like Dusty May's telling everybody, throw it out of bounds, just, start going. Don't really care about, just go. But you see some of the, like Roddy Gale Jr. is coming back. I don't think Roddy Gale Jr. is suddenly going to be a low turnover guy. I think he's going to be a straight line scorer that's going to have some big games. He's going to, wild variance. I don't know if he's going to score 36 like he did against Texas A&M and then come up with a couple goose eggs. Hopefully he has a little bit more consistency than that. But, he's a turnover guy. And you go through it. LJ, he was a turnover guy. That's why I say he's going to be the most important. Kaysen, homegrown, second year. Let's see. They might need him more than you expect. If it's not the turnovers, like I agree with you, Sam, the second part is going to be three-point shooting. And I saw over on the Maize and Blue review, it seemed like that's where everybody was focusing in on, that this team has to be able to shoot better from what they were looking like. You put up the three-point percentage, right out of the gate. And Cadeau apparently is not a three-point shooter. And at Roddy Gale, I wouldn't want him to be shooting many threes. So right off the bat, you have that. But there's two guys that every team would want that look like they belong on a championship team that fit the bill of shooters. Nimari Burnett. If he's in the corner, it's going up. If he is on the wing and it's going up. If he's on the wing and he's 25 feet out, if he is on the wing, I don't know if you back up of that wing, does it go to 35, 38? It's going up. It's going up from Nimari Burnett. He's got more than a green light. Wing, anywhere past the wing and down, it's going up for Burnett. You love to have that kind of shooting. He made a name for himself that last year. Remember, he hit the three to win it against Rutgers. And I would say coming off the bench that Cheddar is also that kind of guy. Just can fill it up. And Cheddar can shoot from anywhere. Soon as they cross half court, if Cheddar has the ball, I want it to fly. Just fire it up. Anywhere you want, Will. You play hard. You get called for too many fouls. You're not going to be out there that long. Fire it. Shoot it. Cast it. Let's go. Pray and spray, whatever you want to call it. That's what you want to see. So that's two guys. And so how fast Trey McKinney, what kind of shooter, he's going to be. And Lindeborg, was he 37%? I don't have the number right in front of me. He wasn't 40. Not bad. He's going to be the Danny Wolf facilitator, kind of do it all. Versatile big men. If you think about it, Wolf was 7 feet tall, right? But Lindeborg has a longer reach. And there it is. Anytime I mention the reach, I'll ring the bell because I'm big on that wingspan for Lindeborg. So Yeah, 3-point shooting and turnovers. Maybe a lot of teams out there saying, yeah, well, this is going to be, it's not going to be getting taken advantage of by other teams inside, because Michigan, I got to believe, is the longest team in the country, if not the tallest as well. Sam says all these new names, it's kind of hard to get to know these guys. That's the game now. That's you got to the days of sitting around and saying, oh yeah, this will be fun. Scottie Pippen's kid, just think about 2-3 years. No, I mean, you're not getting time. You're likely out of there. Somebody's ready to give you some NIL. You're out. You're not getting the you're out. I mean, and guys are coming in every year. Rip it up. Take a look at who's coming in, and it's a quick burn. You got to adjust if you're a fan. You might not like it. I don't necessarily like it. I liked having a team where somebody would just say, what do you think of the team next year? It's a Michigan basketball. And you'd say, oh yeah, I mean, they got, and then you would know all the guys. Say, oh yeah, boom, boom, yeah, he's going to get better. And it's just not like that anymore. But it hasn't been like that for a long time. I've been crying about the one and dones and how it's ruined college basketball. And that was really the parts, Sam, is that you'd get a guy to come in for a year and he'd be like, yeah, I can't wait for next year. And then it was like Kobe Buffkin a couple of years ago. Started the season and, he looked a little scared. And then, you start playing like, hey, this guy could really be something down the line. A couple boys. And then he even got better. And then he played so well that he played himself into the draft. And it would have been like, he would have been a player where you'd say, oh man. And I haven't heard Kobe Buffkin's name once. He got his guaranteed contract, made his whatever, $9-10 million. Great for him. But that wasn't great for college basketball. He gone. Never to be heard of again. So that part, but it goes back even further than that. But I hear you on that. Thanks very much, Rick. Mr. Martini. A good point guard will fix a lot of things for Dusty's team. And that's what you think Elliot Cadeau is. He reminds me a lot of Trey Donaldson, so we'll see. We'll see how good he is. I hope he is. Was it Dusty eyeballing him and saying we want him over Trey, or was it let's bring in more guards and Trey didn't like that? Trey, I don't know, whatever it was. I know immediately. I'm not even saying this is you, Mr. Martini. People immediately when somebody that's fans. We're fans, right? Donaldson sucked. Cadeau be a lot better. All right. That is the hope. That is the hope, right, Mar? Let's do it. We got one more on basketball. You got a comment or something else? Fire away. Michigan football, what's on the top of mind? You got a question on recruiting, the team, anything out there, just fire away, because I got hockey and the Panthers winning the cup coming up in 2 minutes from right now if I don't have any more. Sam is saying that he thought Juwan flushed the program down the commode, but Dusty held it together with a bunch of transfers. Give Dusty a few years with the same group, maybe a couple Final Fours, question mark. I get that part, but I think what you saw from Dusty is his first year is what you're seeing from Dusty in his second year, in that not like they had a whole bunch of guys coming back from last year's team. It was a bunch of transfers. And then look at this year. It's a bunch of transfers. They only have 4 guys coming back. And would it surprise me that next year, if it was 4 or 5 guys and then they're bringing in another 7 or 8? That's college basketball now. It's hard to predict. Yeah, they've got a couple guys that you would say that could be projects, but those projects get out there and other teams are watching them. They'll say, well, we'll throw them $100,000 for some NIL. And Michigan's like, hey, we really like you. Here's school, which is a pretty penny. And, here's 50 grand and everything else. He's like, I'm out. So I think that is a very encouraging thing about Dusty. He came in late to the game. It was hard to get anything going when you looked at who was left in recruiting. And he was still able to piece together the team, a pretty good team, a hell of a team, actually, for where he started and was able to do. And so he's doing it again this year, except he's getting the bigger names on the front end. Lindenborg was the biggest name out there in the transfer portal. Michigan got him. Number one by most people that looked at him and put the list together for the transfer portal. Not too shabby. But I hear what you're saying, 5 freshmen. Maybe they could get a couple of those guys to stay around. Maybe more than just one. They had 3 last year, and just one stayed around. All right, so that gets us to what happened last night, and that was the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup. They went back-to-back, and that's impressive. You win a Stanley Cup, nobody takes that away from you. You do it back-to-back, you're in some rare air. Then you get into a situation where it's now a cap league, and there's only been a couple teams that have been able to go. Tampa was one of them, and the Penguins also did it. Wings could have joined that list, but weren't able to back in 08, 09. But so being able to win the cup, extraordinary job there by the Panthers. And they didn't just sit around and tank, although they were bad for some years and had some number 1 picks and everything. But mostly, you look at, they just made great trades. Tkachuk was there via trade. Bennett, Reinhart, those guys were traded for. These are 3 of their pivotal players to win a Stanley Cup. And then they went out in a free agency. They signed Verhaeghe, who had the 3 goals last night. They signed Bob. Is it from the Blue Jackets? Bob Roski signed him. Just throw all this money. Maybe that's what the Red Wings need a goaltender. But to bring it back to the Red Wings, it reminds me of Michigan when they brought in Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh was a Grand Slam hire. Jim Harbaugh was, going to bring Michigan back. And he was a Grand Slam hire, but in 2015 was nice. And 2016 wasn't too bad. It was going 20, but then when they lost that overtime game to Ohio State, it seemed like it plateaued a little bit, and they weren't able to beat Ohio State. And it looked like they were never going to beat Ohio State. And then I kept telling everyone, well, if Harbaugh can't do it, what makes you think anybody else is? I mean, he knows that he's got to beat Ohio State. It's not like he doesn't know that. He knows how to beat Ohio State. He knows how big of a game it is. And I kept saying that, and people kept asking me around 2018, well, how long are you going to say that? Forever? And after 2019, was that when they got rung up for 60 points or whatever? I don't know. And then 2020 happened, and I understood that people were like, he gave it a go. He was a Grand Slam hire, but it wasn't outrageous to ask, and for you to be a Michigan fan to say, I hope we move on. And I know a lot of people who didn't want to do that, and then Michigan had their resurgence and the greatest turnaround ever, and it's just made a hell of a story. They're all about, look at you guys, all wanted Harbaugh go. Whatever. I mean, if you stuck by him, that was good by you. Nice job. It reminds me a little bit with Yzerman. The Harbaugh had done it before. It wasn't like he just came in from Michigan. He had worked all the way through the college ranks, had the, excellent success, almost the ultimate success in the NFL. I mean, it was he had done it before. That's why it kept happening in 2018. Oh, well, look at, he's trying everything. He knows it's just going to be, he knows better than anyone else, how to get this done. And that's what it felt like with Yzerman coming in. Grand Slam hire, the most popular player in Detroit sports history, and that he had done it before. Now, with the Lightning, built that team. Back-to-back cups. I know he ended up technically getting out of there before but he was pivotal in those, and so that's why him coming in, and that's why where they sit here right now, and people are like, you're never going to get rid of him, right? He's going to have to make the decision himself. It's almost like Harbaugh. Remember when they were like, he's got a lifetime contract, and it sounded good for it. Then people were like, wait a second, I got a lifetime contract. I don't think he had a lifetime contract, but it was fun to say. But I don't think Yzerman does either. But it's going to have to be Yzerman's going to have to be the one to say, look, I tried, I kept going. Even if it's not in his name, it's normally not for great ones like Steve Yzerman or anything. You say, hey, I just have to step aside because it's not working. But that's what it's going to have to be. And I don't know if that's great news if you're a big time Red Wing fan and you're like, yeah, we need somebody to get in there and give him an ultimatum. He's going to have to do it this year or else. I hear you, but just telling you my feelings on it. Yzerman's got a lifetime contract, and he's going to have to be the one that steps down. So congratulations to Florida. Ted at back-to-back is something else. Hadley is saying, how ironic is this when Bettman took over as NHL Commission 93 is the last time a Canadian team won the cup. Unreal. Who was that in 93? The Canadians? Patrick Waugh? And since then, nothing, Hadley. Woo. The curse of Bettman. I did see Gary Bettman on that one roundtable where that one dude who's played for the Leafs or whatever else, he's on that roundtable. He's like, the Canadian dollar, you got that, and you got the tax in Toronto, and now they don't have any sales tax down in Florida, so you get $10 million where you got to pay, I don't know, what was it, 6% on $10 million? It's something. And he was like, what about this tax in Toronto? And Bettman was like, you never said any of that when they weren't any good. Of course, Tampa and Florida, they've won 4 of those cups in that span with those caps. So 5-6% sales tax on 10, 20, 30 million is meaningful for sure. Okay, that's going to do it. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. A lot of fun this week heading into Victor's Week. Recruiting wise, there'll be tons of photos rolling in. We'll be on top of all of it, sorting through it there in the Maize and Blue Review. Love to see you over there. We will see you back here on this very channel, on this very feed that you're watching right now on Friday. Until then, have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.